Hey everybody, Daniel Rubino here, Windows Phone Central, and check it out, we got the Samsung ATIV SE, which just came out on Verizon over the weekend. It is a new Windows Phone 8 device, and we got it right here. We kind of almost forgot about this phone, and actually so did a lot of you, because actually no one has tipped us on it, which goes to tell you that Samsung isn't the hottest name in town. But to be honest, I really like Samsung. Even when they're not very, trying hard with Windows Phone, they still make actually really good hardware. This phone isn't different at all. Here's the box, pretty nice looking. Let's pop it open, see what we got. Now, before we get into it, the ATIV SE is continuation of the ATIV series. So this is the original ATIV that came out, I think it was 2012. And not much has, changed in that regard. Here's the AT&T version, what's called the ATIV SE Neo. That's got an 8 megapixel shooter in the back. It weighs about 5 ounces, and it came out a few months ago. It's actually a very handsome device. Not a bad display on it either, as Samsung really makes good displays. But now we have the SE for Verizon, and although it does sort of look the same, you can see here, we're going to peel this plastic off because that's always kind of annoying. They do a good job here of getting that on there. And can I peel this front stuff off? There it goes. So we'll peel that off. Now the ATIV SE continues that tradition of the ATIV series by Samsung. But there are some surprises here, and it's a nice looking phone. It does have 8.0, but you can put 8.1 on it. It looks like it was made for 8.1 and just didn't get it in time. Let's see what else we got in the box here. Pull this out. This phone goes for $199 on contract, although Verizon has some deal that's being run right now. And it goes for $599 off contract. So it's by no means cheap, but that is in line with Verizon's other prices. What else we got here? You got your standard micro USB charger. And of course, a nice little wall adapter. I'm always enjoying how small these are getting now, so pretty good. Throw your USB in there and you can start charging right away. And that's it. That's all that's in the box. So let's take a look here at the phone. Now I do have this loaded up already, so you're not going to have to watch me install anything. It also has the SIM card in there. Speaking of, let's peel off the back. So you got a little notch here. You can just pull it off. You have a 2600 milliamp battery. There is a SIM card that is a micro SIM, so it does not take nano. I actually have an adapter in there though, which is a little tricky, but it will work if you have a nano SIM. And of course, micro SD card slot up to 64 gigs, though I wouldn't be surprised that that new 128 gig version works as well as it does in Nokia's devices, so you could probably get away with that as well. Up on top there is something that's pretty impressive. It's a 13 megapixel camera. We haven't seen that yet from Samsung on the Windows Phone devices, so that is an increase from the 8 megapixel ones that they've been using on the other ATIV lines, and you also get a little flash there. Now, the thing with Samsungs are, this is extremely flimsy and thin. It's a brushed metal look. I apologize for that sun being really bright, but it is very thin. It's white on the inside. Now, some people really have a problem with that, and it's really divisive amongst people. Some people say Samsung feels cheap. I don't mind it, and when you put it on, it's actually very solid. It goes with the body, and there's no flex now. I mean, it is completely flush, and it just feels like a piece of metal. I don't mind that feel at all. This device is very thin and light. It weighs 4.79 ounces, which, to put in perspective, I got the AT&T version here. This is just over 5 ounces. Not that that's heavy, but I'm saying that the Verizon version is thinner and lighter. And that's pretty impressive, because if you look at the display, you're looking at a 5-inch 1080p display. So this is for Samsung's first 1920 by 1080 Full HD AMOLED display Samsung device, whereas the ATIV on AT&T does not have that high resolution screen. It's still very good, it's just not as high, nor is it as big. This is, like I said, 5 inches. And it looks really, really good. No complaints there. You can see in the sun, it does pretty well. Samsung makes probably one of the best displays on the market. I would say, what Nokia has been using, though, has been pretty darn good as well. And you can kind of see this nice little honeycomb effect they use on this device, so it does look a little bit different from the previous ones, and it does look very sharp. You can see the way that metal sort of stands out. It's a very classy looking phone. Let's go to the top here. You can see that 3.5mm headset jack, and then there's that little black nodule. Now this is a first for Windows Phone. That is an IR blaster, meaning you can, totally use this as a remote control for your TV or cable box, and it actually works very well. Samsung includes their own software with this called Watch On, and I think I just launched the wrong one. So Watch On, you load it up, and it basically allows you to choose your zip code and your cable provider if you have one, and then you can program your TV and cable box with it. It just does the IR codes, and it's actually a very simple process. You just go through the menu here, and you can see I got a full remote. And then what's neat about it is you scroll through and you actually see what's on TV now. So it takes a few seconds to bring down the guide. You can see that's on what's TV. And then if I want to watch Dr. Oz, I could bring this up. It gives me information about that show. And then I can hit Watch on TV, and if I tap that, it will change my cable channel. It's basically like a super smart remote control. Not everybody's going to want to use that, but hey, that's a first for Windows Phone. I know Android devices have had that for a while, but this is the first time we've seen this on Windows Phone, and it's kind of cool. Now, part of the reason Samsung can do that is because they're recycling the chassis a little bit here from their Galaxy series, which is probably obvious by now. That allows them to save money, but they're taking advantage of it. For instance, there is your volume control. It's on the left side, so that's a little bit different from how Nokia does it. Flipping over to this side here, and you can see there's the power button, and if you go down that side, look at that, no camera button. That's right, folks, this is the first high-end Windows Phone that doesn't have a camera button. That is a change with the 8.1 chassis specs that Microsoft has given OEMs. Basically means they don't need to put it on there. So how do you access the camera? You got to power it on and use the tile. Now when the 8.1 update comes out for this, you can of course swipe down and you have the quick action center, and you can put the camera there as well, making it a little bit easier. And I have to admit, I don't use the camera button traditionally to actually take photos, but I do use it to turn on the camera. And so it's been a little bit of adjustment to try to use it without it. Not a deal breaker, but it's just something to be aware of. Going down to the bottom there, micro USB, microphone port. And like I said, there's the camera on the back. Nice brushed metal look. You got the 4G LTE logo. Interestingly enough, this is one of the first Windows phones I've seen that doesn't actually say Windows Phone on it. Now Samsung has traditionally done that, but on this device here they don't. Of course, it also usually says Samsung up there, now it says Verizon, so I guess they sort of shifted things around a bit. The device is very thin, it's very light, it's very responsive. We'll talk about specs. This got a 2.3 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 800 processor. That is pretty awesome. 2014, that is actually pretty cutting edge. We're not expecting the 805 chipset out anytime soon. Actually, it's probably not for a few more months. So you're talking a pretty bulletproof device here for the next, I would say, year or so, or 2 years. Combined with that 13 megapixel camera, you got an IR blaster. You have also 2 gigs of RAM on this with 16 gigs of storage. So you did see that micro SD card, so 16 gigs internal, and then you can basically augment that with 64. And don't forget, with Windows Phone 8.1, which you can actually install in this right now if you wanted to, you could also install apps to the SD card now, so that's a new feature. Definitely something to consider. On the front there, you got a 2 megapixel front-facing camera. It's pretty decent, and then you got your sensors. It's sort of hidden, you can't see it right here, but where that check comes off for the Verizon logo is actually a hidden LED. Now that LED notification is only used when charging. It goes red when charging, green when charged. It is not a notification LED though for alerts, so you will not miss a call. I don't think it'll blink. I didn't check voicemail, but I don't think it does for that either. Still, nice little touch. Nice to have with vibration. And there on the bottom there you can see that is the Windows key, the start key. And what's cool about it is you can of course use it to actually turn on the device since it's a physical one. I kind of like these, and you can see the buttons right there. It does have back keys. there, it's just kind of hard to see. You can see it right there. They the LEDs light up and then they go disappear. What that does actually, of course, is give the device a very clean look when it is turned off. And I kind of like that effect. I think it's good. You can also control the haptic feedback on it, so that's pretty nice. If we go into settings quickly, let's take a look here. Scroll down. You actually got some cool stuff here from Samsung. Sound Alive. You can see that screen is getting a lot of fingerprints on there. That's mostly because I'm in the sun though and you're noticing a lot, but let me wipe that off quickly. Anyway, let's go back in here. Sound Alive is a equalizer system to control your sound, and what's nice here compared to Nokia is it works for speakers or ear sets, so you actually have two options. Nokia's only works with headphones. That's actually kind of a drawback, but you can choose that. You got rock, dance, jazz, vocal, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of cool to have. You also have your extra settings here, so you have auto display intensity, so it automatically adjusts for a white background, echo cancellation, auto output mode, haptic feedback, so you can control how those buttons feel, if they vibrate or not, which is kind of nice. I actually love that feeling, but some people actually don't. Call message settings is kind of nice. There's a call blocker involved there, so you can control SMS and calls. Pretty nice. And voice privacy, enable, disable voice privacy. That's just a CDMA thing, since this uses Verizon CDMA for voice calls, but LTE 4G for data. That's just an encryption thing. Kind of nice to have. Backup Assistant Plus is actually a Verizon service, so that's on here as well. Contacts import, and then APNs. So just some standard stuff for configuring the device. It does come with Update 3 installed, so you get all the latest features there. And like I said, you can install 8.1 on this now, and it will get 8.1 in the coming weeks to months. There's your phone storage, because about 14 gigs available. I already have a lot of stuff here installed, and you can see the SD card there. Other than that, battery saver, you get all the standard settings. You do have some Verizon custom sounds there, which is kind of nice. Not too much else is different with the device. You do get ShareBox and a couple of Samsung apps. They're actually pretty decent, but they heavily tie into the Samsung ecosystem, which should be obvious. So if you don't have a lot of Samsung products, you may not get a lot of use out of it, but you can always uninstall those and reinstall them when you go to the store to the Samsung Zone. And you can see that right there with all their apps. I got Chat On, a photo editor, which is actually pretty decent, the mini diary, live wallpaper, which just changes the lock screen. Shooting modes is actually pretty nice. That's actually installed and I need to update it evidently. Shooting modes is when you go into the camera. You can also probably link to it in the app. Let's see, we can go to lenses and you can see I got a bunch installed here and there's shooting modes. So this is a custom Samsung app. It's kind of nice. You have auto, continuous shooting for rapid shots. You can bring the menu up again. Beauty, which is basically smooths out your skin. And then HDR, which is pretty decent. It's a okay HDR app. It's nothing too fancy. You know, Samsung's not nearly as creative as Nokia when it comes to their phones, or their cameras rather, but it's not too bad either. And I do like their photo editing app. So that's a quick look at the ATIV SE for Verizon. We'll do a full review probably in the coming days for it, you know, depending on how much you guys are actually interested in this device. Samsung tends to be sort of polarizing. But I gotta tell you, you know, like I said, when Samsung doesn't even try very hard, they still make really good hardware, and some people are just really partial to this design. It's very elegant, it's handsome, it's light, it's thin, and it's very powerful. Like I said, quad-core 2.3 gigahertz processor, 16 gig storage, that micro SD for expansion, and a 13 megapixel camera, which if you had a WP Central for this article, I'll actually put a couple samples up. It's actually pretty impressive. It's a pretty sharp camera. Not the, I think Nokia's are still better, but it's actually a very good improvement from previous ATIV releases. So there you go. Head to us on Essential for more information and tell us what you think. Take care, everybody.